talent and culture.
I'm
There it
sorry.
goes. No, you're good. They'll just catch me like midway and then it'll be like no context, which is good. So talent culture programs lead for the JR Simplot company. So that includes areas of university relations and the internship program, as well as employee engagement, performance management, diversity, equity, and inclusion. So pretty much a jack of all trades in that, and generally kind of talent in HR. Alumni from Boise State, previously worked at Micron Technology for 5 years, and then have been at Simplot for the past 3.5. So been in your seats, not, I guess, the current seats, because all of you are probably from home, but have certainly been through the Boise State program and have had success, at least in the Valley, finding opportunities. So happy to be on the panel.
Awesome. Thanks, Bill. And Marnie.
Yeah, thank you. Hi, everybody. My name is Marnie Pedic. I'm the sales recruiting manager for the E&J Gallo Winery. So we got a bunch of ag here, and I'm going to be the most partial and say wine is the best. But, I'm also 21 and above and, like to partake once in a while. So to each his own. But anyways, so I'm the sales recruiting manager. Like I said, I manage New Mexico, Idaho to the Pacific Ocean for all of our college recruiting strategies for our sales program. Additionally, I also hire and manage our internship program, as well as our current mentor families, retention of our candidates, and just all of the kind of really fun stuff that we get to do here at E&J Gallo Winery. Although I'm not a Boise State grad, I'm actually a Vandal. Don't hold it against me. I love Broncos. My sister and my brother both went to Boise State, and my whole family lives in Boise, and they're all obsessed with Boise State. So I got it in the blood, just was not an alumni myself. So I was a public relations major. I started my career with Gallo. I was actually recruited for the sales program that I'm recruiting for now. And I started my career with Gallo almost 11 years ago and worked my way up all the way through the program, sales representative, district manager, all sorts of really fun jobs. And now I'm the sales recruiting manager. So long story short, excited to be here. Thanks for having me and looking forward to connecting with all of you.
Awesome. Thanks, Marnie. So how this will work is I'm going to moderate the chat. So I think that's going to be the easiest way. And so if you want to ask a question, type it in the chat, include if it's for one of the panelists specifically, or if it is open for all three of them to answer. So go ahead and start typing in any questions that you've thought of. My class specifically, you should have 1 or 2 questions that we discussed. So go ahead and start typing those in and we'll get going with asking some questions. I will start off. Marnie, you said that you started off 11 years ago in the program and worked your way up. What did it entail for you getting hired? If they recruited you, what did you have to do to kind of go through that process of getting the job?
For sure. Honestly, it was just a ton of networking and what I had done before on campus getting the job. So it's, obviously going to career fairs and going to networking nights and business panels and asking questions and getting your name out there, connecting on LinkedIn, using your resources. But then Gallo is all about, how you've executed on campus before. So what you're doing on top of going to school. Do you work full time? Are you part of a club or an organization? Are you on a sports team? And then being able to relate your experience to what you're applying for. So maybe you're applying for a job in sales, but you don't have sales experience. That's okay. You can say like I did, hey, I don't have sales experience, but I'm a very fast learner and I'm really passionate about this opportunity. I can't wait to, start my career here. Or I don't have potato experience, but I really love eating French fries. So you can use your experience and what you've done on campus to translate to any job that you're trying to apply for, and just make sure you have your elevator pitch ready and you are, can relate your experiences specifically to what you're recruiting for. That's really what helped me get the gig when I was
awesome. So questions are starting to come in. So the first question is, are there internships right now where you work, Marnie?
There is actually, we're very limited on internships. It's a new program for us. So we will have 1 spot left. If you're interested, you can just reach out to me on LinkedIn and send me your resume directly, because technically our application has closed for Boise State, but we haven't officially filled the intern spot left. So if you're interested, we have 1 spot left.
Awesome. Thank you. So this next question is open to all three of you. With hiring straight from college, what are you specifically looking for? So we'll go ahead and start with Brandon.
I think coming straight from college, we're looking for someone that adds to the team, right? And there's a variety of ways to do that with someone who doesn't necessarily have a ton of job experience. Some of the things we look for are people who have a intellectual curiosity, and that definitely comes through in your work and your studies that you've done here. We're looking for people who bring leadership, and that can be demonstrated through various clubs or sports, or even, just that grit that you get doing the summer jobs or internships that you may have had over the course of your career. But kind of to Marty's point, it's about being able to connect what you've done, less about the title and the industry, and more about the skills you learn and how you can apply it to the work that you're doing here. But we're looking for great people that add to the passion that we have here at Lamb Weston.
Awesome. Bill, what about you?
Yeah, those were all, really good points. I think, Brandon kind of tied onto it at the end of that, was kind of that passion. And, I think that intellectual curiosity plays into this a bit, but really ensuring you have an understanding of, what the organization does that you're applying to, and referring back to your own lived experiences and how you feel like that would add value to the organization. I think, all too common. I think students, get into these conversations in phone interviews or interviews, and are like, well, it's the next step, right? I need to get a job, and don't really think about like, oh, well, where do my values align to what the company's looking for? And so I think those that can really assess like, okay, here's what I'm passionate about, and here's my values, and here's how they align to Simplot and really what you do. Those types of students really stand out, and I think, would be those that we'd want to bring into the organization. So.
And then Marnie, do you want to add on to that? I know you kind of answered it in your first question, but is there anything you can add to that question?
Yeah, just on top of being involved, it's then holding a leadership position. So taking that next step, because most employers look for, especially at Gallo, like our program is long-term leadership. So demonstrate that while you're on campus as much as possible. But yeah, getting involved, making sure that you align with the company, and then just doing your research. There's a lot of research that can be done on Glassdoor, on LinkedIn, industry articles. It just, when you do get to connect with that employer, then you have really, really solid questions, not just generic questions. Like if you're going to ask a question, it's good. You always want to ask a question, but make sure it's specific. So not just tell me about the culture, but hey, at Gallo, I know innovation is really important. What does that mean to you? Really do your research on the organization. Make sure it's something you can be passionate about.
Awesome. This is open to all of you as well. And we'll start with Bill on this one. How did your education help you succeed outside of your career?
Yeah, so this is interesting. I think when you come at a program like HR and you don't necessarily specialize in areas of talent acquisition or recruiting, and really you start kind of aligning to those soft skills, and how I approach work, how I really try to research on certain topics and try to become subject matter experts in those. I think it really comes down to like, what were some of the ways I approached my schoolwork that I could then apply to my professional career, even though, again, there's not oftentimes those direct connections back to, what I was studying. And I think college gives you a great foundation and transferable skills. And then sometimes you start becoming a bit more specialized, and you're not necessarily learning those same things, at least in undergrad level. So I think it's understanding what you learned in school, how you really approach it, and then how you can apply it into your role was what I found probably most valuable to me.
Awesome. Marnie?
I would say just having that networking, even if you're not doing it for work. Like for example, you're wearing a Boise State hat, you could be at an airport in Florida and somebody could go, "Go Broncos!" And then like you immediately have that connection. So on top of obviously the soft skills, the people skills, learning how to do quick math and taxes and all of that, for me, what my education provided is just that ability to network and connect with people who I might not have the opportunity to connect with in the past. So really cool experience to get those and like when you're not expecting it.
Awesome. Brandon?
It's interesting. I was a psychology major, which I always say is a great major for someone who doesn't know what they want to be when they grow up. I was a primate psychologist. I worked with monkeys, actually alcohol studies with rhesus macaques, and fell into business. And kind of what Bill was saying, it was about realizing that my skill set around research and and looking at the world and asking unique questions really applied itself well to an organizational design mentality and culture and systems. And so I think it's really the best thing I walked away with was not just the degree, but an understanding of what I enjoyed and what drove me, and realizing that I could apply that in a lot of different fields. The other thing I'd add, and it might tie in a bit with what Marnie was saying, the ability to work well with others in a group setting, in a teamwork environment, that's a fantastic skill set because it's very rare. Actually, I can't think of anywhere in a corporate environment where you're going to be able to do work in a vacuum and not have to involve, influence, and collaborate with others. I think it's a fantastic skill that I learned in my undergraduate.
Awesome. So this question is actually open to all of you as well, and we will start with Marnie on this one. What would you say helps you stand out for internships?
Ooh, I would just say, kind of doubling down on what I've said before, get involved and speak to your experience. Like if you want to learn something about an internship to go into that career path, so like, this is what I want to do. This is how I want to get into the industry. I can't wait to have this to add to my resume to hopefully come work for you after graduation, if that's part of the process. So get involved, do your research, kind of things I've mentioned before are for me, the things that not just for full-time, but for internships stand out for sure.
Awesome. Brandon.
Applying for a job is storytelling, and the person who can tell the story of here's who I am and how I got to, and obviously the next chapter is this position you have with the company, they're the ones who are going to do best in the interview process. And one of the ways you can do that is doing the legwork in advance. I think the idea of an informational interview before the actual interview with someone at the company, don't let the interview be the first time you've talked to someone with whatever organization you're going with. You should have done your research. You should talk to people who are doing the role. You should have reached out because companies want to talk to people that are interested in what they do and know what they're doing.
That's great. Bill.
Yeah, I'm not sure I'd have much to add. I think in terms of reaching out, leveraging your network, lean on the Kobe Career Center, ensure you have at least at minimum a well-structured and hopefully well-informed resume that's really directing for the type of role that you want to have. So I mean, I think again, but definitely engagement, involvement on campus also really helps, especially if you don't have maybe a ton of hands-on work experience, where if you can lean back on areas where you've held roles within student organizations or sororities, really anything, it can really help.
Awesome. Thank you. This next question is open to everybody, and we'll go ahead and start with Bill on this one. In management, what do you believe is one of the best skill sets to have as a leader in order to create a successful team?
Yeah, I saw this one come in the chat, and I was like, "Oh, that's a really good question." For me, I think it's situational adaptability as a leader. I think it's understanding not every individual on your team needs the same things, and being able to adapt to what you're hearing, and kind of cultivating a kind of that open door policy for people to feel comfortable expressing either concern or gaps in knowledge or whatever that could be. And it's hard if you just have one leadership approach to be able to accommodate the diverse learning styles and communication styles on your team. So I would say situational adaptability is one that I would lean on.
Awesome. Marnie.
Active listening. In order to effectively manage people, you have to listen to them and know what they're actually asking for or looking for. And so tuning up those active listening skills is so important, because in order to speak to that person, in order to motivate them, coach them, train them, lead them, you have to be able to listen to them. So make sure that not just, hearing, but listening. Really important.
Awesome. Brandon.
Ditto, right? And if I were to add value to the conversation, I think I would say a growth mindset, right? The understanding that who you are today is not who you need to be tomorrow. And the same thing leads true to the teams that you're with. And if you assume that people can and want to contribute, it completely changes the way you'll coach them, recognize them, and train them and develop them to be whatever they want to be when they grow up. And I think that growth mindset for yourself and the grace that gives you, and also that growth mindset for your team as you lead them, is a phenomenal way to view leadership.
Great. Those are all very good attributes to have as a management leader. So we've got a couple questions specific to Bill. So the first question was, BSU helpful with getting you connections for your job at Simplot now?
Was BSU helpful? Is that what the question was?
Yeah.
Unlike Marnie, I was not probably the most active when it came to leveraging the Career Center, going to career fairs. In the situation I was in, I actually just needed a job, and I was working through college, and was probably not as involved on campus as I would have liked. And I would almost say kind of lucked into the opportunity at Micron at the time, and really saw that gap, and held myself accountable to say I will train the next generation better than I was at leaning on these skills and resources. But certainly in my network and the relationships I've built since, both at Boise State as well as the ones I had at Micron, have certainly kind of paved a path for, I would say, where I'm at today. So yeah, do better than I did, I'll say, at least in your current situations.
So the second question for you, Bill, is what made you want to go back to get your master's?
Yeah, another great question. I think some of the tried and true answers would be, hey, in terms of growing with an organization, you eventually need maybe that MBA or that master's level to get into the C-suite or kind of the executive level. And while I think that's somewhat the case, I did want to ensure I had open doors. I also wanted to ensure that I could maybe flex into areas of the business that I hadn't had previous experience in. So my entire career has been in HR and talent. And oftentimes when you become that specialized, you start, maybe closing doors if people don't see that you have kind of curiosity or experience or even applied knowledge in those other areas. So those were some of the reasons. And then also the networking opportunity with professionals within the Valley, I think, was also a huge sell. So would definitely recommend if it's on a path of yours, the MBA would be a really good resource, or even kind of defining on a further path of like a master's in accountancy, finance, marketing. I think continued education is always a positive, but those were my reasons.
Awesome. And then this question is open to everybody. Do you all find your job fulfilling, and is it something that you look forward to doing every single day? So we'll start with you, Bill, and then we'll go to Marnie and then Brandon.
Just keep at it. Absolutely. I mean, I love my job. I think luckily at Simplot, I've had opportunities to really create my own position, which is nice. The role I came into didn't exist before I joined, and then the role I'm at right now didn't exist before I kind of raised a hand and took on some additional opportunities within kind of the D&I and performance management process. So I love that aspect, but I've always had a strong passion for the UR space, and that's why I continue to do things like this. And you see me at career fairs is, I have such a strong interest to see college students, prepare successfully and land fulfilling careers. So yeah, I love it. I love my job.
Awesome. Marnie.
Yeah, same. I mean, Gallo has a lot of perks to it. We hire a lot of really fun people. Half of my bridesmaids are people I met at Gallo. My husband was somebody I met at Gallo, right? We call it G Harmony. It's a funny joke. But so we have this really great work-life balance. Working for a family company is so fulfilling for me personally. We align in our values, we align in our community give back, our feelings of, leaving the world a better place than how we found it. So if you can align on values and what we were talking about earlier and what the work is, absolutely, that's for me incredibly fulfilling. And then when you get to offer a student a job, they're like lifetime career, nothing gets more fulfilling than that. So it's pretty great.
Awesome. Brandon.
It's always fun to be knowing you're part of someone's dinner conversation that way, right, Marnie, when you're giving out offers. Very fulfilling. And I think it's interesting all three of us are saying that, and I think there's a reason why we have a chance to raise our hand for opportunities like this to share our passion. But I'm weird in the sense that I'll wake up at 5:30 in the morning because I want to make sure I have half an hour to teach myself Python, because I want to be able to apply that in the work that I'm doing and do our artificial intelligence language reader on some of our performance plans. And I love the fact that my position allows me to answer interesting questions. And it's 100% aligned to who I am outside of work and inside of work. If you saw me as a father or a husband or in some of the other groups that I participate with, I bring a lot of the same talents, a lot of the same skills, and a lot of the same conversations I'm pretty sure my kids are sick and tired of me talking about leadership frameworks and how do you deal with conflict in different ways as I try to, navigate them and their sibling squabbles the same way I do with individuals at work. But I think, being a part of an organization where I know we're passionate about doing the right thing for our people, I love that. And that gets me incredibly motivated.
Awesome. Now, this next question, I'll leave it open. I don't know that you all see resumes, but the question is, what are the most common resume and or interview mistakes that you see? So I'll open it to any of you to answer.
When it comes down to interviews specifically, I would say not having specific examples to back it up. So if we're asked, if you have on your resume president of a sorority or, captain of a club, and we say, can you tell us about a time when you had to face conflict? And it's like, oh, a lot of the times in club sports or in sororities, people butt heads. It's like, no. When I say specific, come up with, this is one time, this, and this happened. Use the STAR method: situation, task, action, result. Talk through your question, but make sure you're providing specific answers. So resume, just watch like your spelling and grammar and all of that, because we'll look at that, but when it comes down to interviews, just use that STAR method and make it specific. The more specific, the better at the end of the day.
Yeah, I think I'd add to that within the resume as much as possible, they can be very generic. I think a good resume can be generic where you say, hey, I once upon a time was a financial analyst and here were my tasks in that. That's fine, but if I know what a financial analyst is and I'm recruiting for that, I know what all financial analysts are doing, generally speaking. Show what you did, right? Instead of talking about what the role is, talk about what you brought to the table. What made Brandon Bennett as a financial analyst so exciting? And what were some of the things that you did that were so unique that you changed the game for everyone else going forward? If you're able to still tie those kind of STAR stories, right, your situation and your results, even in your resume, that will help you stand out and be a top 10% resume versus the good general resumes that are out there.
I absolutely. I'm going to say one more thing. Thank you, Brandon, for reminding me. Quantify your resume. So
Yes.
instead of being a financial analyst, say, I managed X people or a budget of X dollars. I increased sales by X%. So quantify as much as possible. I work 15 hours a week while going to school, 20 hours a week, 30 hours a week. The more you can quantify that, the better you set yourself up. Thank you for reminding me of that, Brandon.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Bill, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I think they covered it. I think results oriented, not task orientation. And then, interviews, it's kind of funny. We hear the we versus I. Maybe you guys have heard some of this guidance, but, when you do talk about team projects, I want to understand, what you owned, what was your role, not as much as just say, hey, we got the A. I'm like, well, walk me through what your role was and how did you contribute to that? So consider, how you added value in your collective outcomes.
Awesome.
And, Bill reminds me of something else, if I could add to it. In the interview side of it, don't qualify yourself. Speak with confidence about what you did and what you didn't do and be okay with that. But the likes and it was sort of, and we kind of achieved this, get rid of those words that qualify what you did. Say I did do this, we delivered this, and get rid of the kind of, the sort of, the maybes.
Yeah, I would agree. Confidence is, I actually just interviewed for a position today, and confidence going in with it, it sounds much better too. So that's all very helpful advice. The next question, this is for Marnie specifically. So with different internships related to the wine industry, does it expand outside of the country, or is it just within your main area where the company is located?
So Gallo as a whole is an international company. We export and import to over 160 countries. But like I said, our internship is really, really small. So it is just specific to major markets in the US. So I specifically recruit for a Seattle internship, and then a Bay Area internship, and a LA, SoCal area internship. So unfortunately, because I'd be like, because I manage the internships, I'd be like, oh, go to Italy, oh, go to New Zealand. Maybe I should pitch it. That's a great idea.
I would go to New Zealand. So this is open to everybody. We'll actually start with Brandon. How has everyone's business model changed because of the pandemic? So Brandon, I'll have you start.
Yeah, no, it's an interesting question, right? With French fries and we do have space in the retail space, and we do have space in the restaurants, and the restaurants have obviously been hurt within that. I think our business model, I don't know that our strategy has changed, but how we execute that strategy, we've had to adapt to make sure that we're available for our customers more. We've definitely had to change the way that we train and onboard and recruit for talent, and where we're looking for that talent as people are becoming more and more remote. And how do we make sure that we have people supported during a great time of uncertainty so that they can focus on their daily deliverables, because we've taken care of the things that they're worried about on the home front. And so making sure that benefits, resources, even job security is aligned and communicated to the organization.
Bill.
Yeah, good thing is Brandon and I are, same industry, a little different in terms of maybe the outlets were a bit more heavily weighted to the food service. So we did have some changes, whether it was actually we were already on the path of a delivery fry option and trying to increase the longevity or the freshness of said product. So obviously that helps when it comes to delivered products. We changed up our marketing a bit to be more oriented towards helping operators with a transition to a either delivery or a pickup option, which is a little different than maybe what they're used to. But our diversification across our other business lines in terms of agriculture and livestock certainly helped kind of offset what I would say was a relatively severe downturn. In my MBA class, we just talked about risk assessment, and it's like most of us were probably more ready for either a terrorist attack or a earthquake than we were than a global pandemic. So just keeps in mind, like, hey, in terms of the ability to adapt and do what you need to do while ensuring you're keeping your people safe and considering their health is important. So.
And Marnie.
Oh, I could talk for hours on this. I'll keep it really short. But essentially for our sales leadership development program, our feet on the street jobs didn't change because they call on grocery retail accounts. So doing a little bit more safe, masks, gloves, instead of your manager riding in your car with you to get that coaching between accounts, they're following. So, but there is still considered essential workers. So for that phase 1, phase 2 of our sales program, no real change. When it comes to corporate, huge changes. We were kind of already leaning in really heavy on e-commerce. Most states now can deliver wine. How can you, order a cocktail through DoorDash and get it delivered that way? So we changed a lot when it came to our bar restaurant side of the business. And then our e-commerce totally increased when it came down to it. But again, that's like really minutia stuff. Probably none of you are super interested in it, but we, instead of taking our on-premise folks, we didn't, being a family company, we didn't furlough, we didn't lay anybody off, we repositioned. And so instead of just selling them product, we were consulting with them, having them, or like coming up with ideas with them to learn how to sell their product through some of these pickup, takeout, delivery. Like, how do you say you can buy a bottle of wine and pick it up with your meal? So on the on-premise side of our business, we kind of transferred our language from selling to helping them stay in business. We also gave back a lot to our communities, yada, yada, yada. Again, I could go on for hours, but I'll keep it there.
So the next question is, what is something you do to increase your confidence in the workplace? So I'll start with Marnie.
Personally, for me, it's a lot of industry research, not just like I call tasting industry research as well, but also looking at trends and what's going on in the market, because then when I get that chance to get that FaceTime with Stephanie Gallo or the managing director or the vice president of sales, I have really great things and I understand my market, I understand the industry. So outside of just like, sharpening my soft skills, connecting with people, working out to make sure that I'm like physically cool to do my job. It's definitely doing my industry research, whether it's, sampling product or reading publications. So that's really helped a lot just to understand the scope of what the industry is doing and where they want to go.
Great. Brandon.
Before COVID, it was a lot of, actually it's the same thing, I'd say. It's just changed in how it looks, but it's getting out there, it's getting on the floor, it's getting to where the work is happening. And in a manufacturing environment, that's pretty easy, right? You walk the line, you learn the line, you spend time on the floor with people. In a corporate environment, you walk around and you get to talk to people and you shadow people. And then in the post-COVID world, had to change that a little bit. But when you're doing things like office hours and scheduling time with individuals on purpose and kind of shadowing in new roles, but as you understand how the work gets done you challenge a lot of your assumptions, and you have a real true understanding of basically where the truth is, because the truth is not in a report, the truth is not in an email, the truth is not at your desk. It's working with and understanding how the work is happening and how the decisions are being made.
And Bill.
Yeah, I think those are both really good call outs. I think, I read quite a few books in terms of professional development to try to keep my skills relatively sharp and or bring new ideas to our teams. I think also putting yourself in uncomfortable positions is really important for growth. I think, I have multiple instances where I've presented to the entire HR global leadership team and the senior leadership teams and the Simplot family. And it's just so important, I think, to get into those conversations, one, for your own development, but two, for you to be visible. I think you have to have confidence in your work and have passion in your work. And it should feel good that there's interest at those levels to understand it more. So taking advantages of those instead of maybe declining and or having someone do it on your behalf. So I think it's important to raise a hand.
Great. So this next question is open to all of you, and I will have Brandon start. How has your networking and social experiences from college aided you in your success that you've gained throughout your career?
Well, I remember the idea of being able to reach out as a college student seemed incredibly foreign to me. I remember when I got that advice from a mentor, I said to him, why on earth? I get a mentor reaching out that benefits me, but why on earth would they want to talk to me? What's the benefit of that? And the realization, and what he said to me was, people like to help people, and what you're allowing them, what you're giving to them is an opportunity to help someone, and people like that. And that knowledge really gave me a lot of confidence to reach more than I maybe ought to, and build some networks. I think the ability to have a good informational interview where you say, here's who I am, I'd love to learn more about what you do, tell me about it, give me a day in the life of, and then write a thank you note is a phenomenal skill to have. I'll be honest, it changed my life. I wanted to be an anesthesiologist growing up. I wanted to be a doctor. I finally did an informational interview and shadowed an anesthesiologist and almost passed out 8 times in the operating room. I realized this is not what I want to do when I grow up. And those informational interviews are a skill that help you build a great network and a true human connection, while at the same time validating your assumptions about what you think you want to be when you grow up.
That's great. Bill.
Yeah, I love the idea of really leaning in on people to help, because I found even in my role, I've never really been in it for the purpose of my company or even myself. I'm usually in it for the conversation with the student. So whether I can connect them with Marnie or be able to say, hey, EJ Gallo is a great company based on what I've heard her pitch multiple times at this point, which is great. I always learn something new each time. But really, again, I'm always in it for the student, and I've really found, and maybe it was college or not, or maybe it's my time in industry, but to really put your investment in people that champion your efforts. And oftentimes you'll have to make the decisions between a dollar figure or a certain set of benefits, and people that want to advocate for you. And I think find the people that want to champion you and watch you grow and develop you. And the money will come, or satisfaction will come. So look for those things.
Awesome. Marnie.
Well, first of all, like, my social experiences led me to use maturity with alcohol beverage. At the end of the day, I work for an alcohol beverage company. And so I was an athlete in college, and I really had to learn how to balance social responsibility and having fun with my buddies. So truly, out the end of the front, like, that really was helpful for my personal career. But secondarily, like, for everybody else, not networking, how to work teamwork. Like, whether you're in a club or a group project or you're with your buddies, like, you do so much teamwork as a social experience and network in college. And then you also learn how to confront difficult situations. And so as a recruiter, you do have to turn people down. So when, you connect with people in college and you're in a group project, you have to say, hey, you're not pulling your weight, or you're the leader of a sorority and you say, hey, you screwed up, you have to answer for this. It really helped me have those difficult situations, turn it into a positive, use that for teamwork for my long-term benefit, and also just learn how to connect with people. I'm in sales, like, that's all about people and connecting and finding that personal touch. So I had a really unique experience with how my social life in college kind of transferred to my professional life, but I think you can kind of use that in any setting, even if you're, at a dinner interview, hopefully again soon, and you're having a glass of wine over dinner. I think you can really learn to use that social responsibility really well.
Great. So this next question is open to all of you, and I think it might be different for Marnie versus Bill and Brandon. If going down the finance route and wanting to work for a business like a winery, is that something that organizations have multiple positions for, or is it a harder position to get? So I'll start with Bill.
Yeah, I mean, I think for us versus, a financial services organization may have a clearer path for new grads. We certainly have, internship opportunities that'll get you some exposure there. We are looking to stand up within probably the next 6 to 12 months, a financial rotation program, which will get you experience across each of our business lines, which is a pretty unique experience, at least within Simplot. So I think there'll be more opportunities, but I would say at the offset, we don't typically hire a ton of financial analysts at a new grad level, at least.
For Gallo, I'll touch on it. We definitely have finance positions available, but they're based out of Modesto, California, at a headquarters. So if you want to, work in the finance department, typically you're going to be working at a headquarters. So don't know how you feel about Modesto. It's not my bag, but that's fine. To each his own. So we do have finance positions. Typically we hire MBA level for finance positions, just because there's a lot of there's like a lot that goes on in the wine industry, a lot of laws, a lot of things that are and are not legal. But as a salesperson, you use finance every single day. How can you make this deal? What are my numbers? How can I run different numbers to get it done in the same way? So you might be finance people do super, super well in sales to work their way up, maybe to eventually do a finance position. But regardless of what you go into, especially in sales, you're using a ton of finance. Not what you asked, but had to plug it.
I'd agree with Marnie. I think any function benefits from finance skills. I will say for Lamb Weston, if you're interested in a finance role, give me a buzz. We do have a finance rotation program that we launched last year. Bill, give me a call. We can talk over a coffee, and I'll tell you the things so you don't make the same mistakes we did. But the way it's built up for us is it is focused on gaining some experience with our internal audit team, so you get that broad business understanding and side of things, working with our commercial business unit, so you're a finance business partner, right? Business leader with finance skills. And then also our supply chain side of things, so you get an opportunity to see how we make what we make and bring that understanding back to you wherever you end up wanting to be in the organization. And it's work that's built around work and meaningful work and development. It's not one of those things where you kind of fly through the program. You actually are doing work and delivering results each step along the way. And so that's what an entry-level position in finance looks like at Lamb Weston. And our internships are built to kind of mirror that with our opportunities matching within those different units, but based on 12 weeks and projects.
Great. So I actually am really looking forward to hearing the answer to this question. This is open to everybody, so we'll start with Marnie on this. When making a mistake during your career, what's the best way to approach the issue?
Head on. No question about it. Walk up, and especially if it's your boss, say, hey boss, I've made a mistake. How can I help fix it? Or even better, hey boss, I did this, but I've already done this to rectify it. So taking action, taking responsibility for your action, and then coming up with not only a solution, but multiple solutions to help fix that problem. If you try to run from it, if you try to pretend it wasn't you, it's going to be bad across the board. Approach it, use communication, listen, and then learn from it. At the end of the day, that's the best thing you can do.
Awesome. Brandon.
Hyper accountability leads to hyper growth. And if you make a mistake and you own it, there's an opportunity for growth there. And one of my favorite questions to ask people in interviews, tell me about a time when you failed. And I'm less concerned about what the failure was, but it's more very similar to the formula that Marnie presented, right? It's did you recognize it? How did you take about accountability when you recognize it? How did you fix it immediately? Then how did you change things so that you didn't make that mistake going forward, or others didn't make that same mistake? I want to see the learning. I want to see the elevation for you and for others in regards to yourself, to systems, and the broader organization.
Bill.
I'm not sure I could add much. I think those were well covered. I mean, yeah, in general, I think the growth piece of that is really really key too, because so many of us now here are like, oh, failure is okay, and that's certainly true. We want to put you in areas where you're going to grow, and that oftentimes leads to failure. But it's understanding how you react and adapt, and ensuring that again, whether it happens again or not, or you have some better structure with moving forward is key. So well covered.
Yeah, and I would definitely agree with that head on. So this next question is open to everybody. We'll start with Bill. Have the soft skills like communication that you learned in college helped you in your careers more than the hard skills like math, science, etc.?
Absolutely. I think if you were to ask, I'd be interested in Brandon's feedback, knowing he was more on a technical undergrad and a path. But for me, being in kind of talent acquisition, I would certainly say the soft skills have definitely paved a clearer path to the role I'm in today. I think the other skills have certainly, I guess, proved helpful. But that's what kind of YouTube for is, I guess. You can kind of watch a video and it'll train you how to do a lot of things. So a lot of my Excel skills now, I certainly had the foundation in school, but have kind of learned how to apply, some unique or different aspects to even my role in HR. So I think the really key is being able to continue learning in those capacities, seeing if there's different ways to do, maybe the same role or the same task. Python looking to maybe automate or evaluate, data is even a really cool application there, Brandon. But yeah, I'd say soft skills for me, and then just continuing to lean into the hard skills and not looking away from them is important too.
Brandon.
I think the hard skills get you to a point, but it's the soft skills that keep you moving. And you have to be able to do the job. You have to be able to build credibility with the skill set you bring to the table. But when you start going into roles based on leadership, based on influence, based on that collaboration piece of it, those soft skills are invaluable, and they are what really end up differentiating some very technically skilled individuals and true transformational leaders. And so again, I think it depends what you want to be when you grow up. But if you are looking to be in that leadership role and leading function companies, those soft skills are going to carry you the rest of the way when the soft skills don't. I mean, I had a conversation, for example, with my CFO the other day, and he mentioned, he doesn't know how to program VBA, but he's got a lot of people on his team that do, right? And his career at this point has taken to a point where he doesn't need the hard skill. It's completely around the soft skills at this point.
Marnie.
I think I was pretty lucky in college that my major was public relations, and that taught me a lot of soft skills, how to talk to people, how to public speak, some of those things. So I got really lucky. So I don't know. It'd be really hard for me to answer that one. I think you can learn a lot from hard schoolwork, from those technical skills, IT, math specifically. Like I said, I'm a salesperson. I use math all the time. Like, I don't use physics, but I also didn't take physics because that wasn't my passion in college. So I think it depends what you want to go into. If you want to go into microbiology as a career, yes, those hard skills are going to be super, super important. But something like sales and relationship building and all of that, I was lucky that my hard skills in college were actually soft skills when it came down to getting a job.
Great. So this next question is a great question. So regarding in-person networking, which I know we've kind of been derailed a little bit, how do you fight the burnout of constantly talking and having to constantly be on your A game when presenting yourself? I'm going to start with Marnie on this one.
Ooh, might have been a bad choice to start with me. I actually get really, really excited. Like, that's what fires me up, is when I can talk to candidates, sell Gallo, tell the story, because that's why I chose the job I did now, but you're not chose, like, I wanted to try this job, was because I love talking to people. I don't know if you could tell, I could talk to growing grass and just like be super satisfied. So for me, it fires me up. I would say, to give a piece of advice to someone, take your breaks if you need it, but take them in the right area. So if you don't get inspired and fired up, don't just stand in a corner and look at your phone or kind of be indulged in this, take it outside where employers won't see you being disengaged. Take it to the bathroom if you need to, you know, sit quietly for a couple of minutes, whatever is going to make you recharge. Just don't let the employer seeing you completely disengage. You know what I mean? So just take your quiet time if you need it, but make sure it's in the right space at the right time.
Bill.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. I mean, in the line of work I am, because I do enjoy meeting students and having just kind of continuous conversation. But I do, and I think it's great guidance to, you know, step away, find ways to recharge, you know, meet a peer, you know, have a conversation with a friend, just kind of reset and just kind of get back at it and change up each time you have a conversation. Don't necessarily start it the same way. Change up the fact, change up, you know, what you're talking about, because maybe it yields to different type of conversation or, you know, kind of a path in a different way. So I think have some fun with it. Don't feel like you have to go in there and have the same canned, you know, 10 or 15 phrases each time, and just allow the conversation to kind of build, because I think that's really where the fun kind of kicks in, is having those more organic conversations.
Great. Brandon.
You know, if going to a party and networking isn't the thing that motivates you, what I'd say is maybe change the perspective of it, right? And the goal of networking is not to throw out your elevator pitch and not to get someone's business card or LinkedIn connection. But if you realize that the goal of networking is to make a human connection, very much changes the conversation. And it's not about performing the same play over and over and over and over again. It's about knowing, hey, I want to make sure I say these 2 points, but I also want to get to know this person just for the same fact that they're a person. And it's interesting how, if you do that, how small the world is. And a human connection you make at one meeting, maybe someone that you don't connect with again for a year or 2 or 3 or 5, but ends up getting you a role 6 years down the road. And it's like, hey, I do remember we had this conversation. If you make a connection for the sake of making a human connection, it changes the dynamic. And I think it makes it a much deeper network.
Awesome. So this next question is also for everybody. I'll just open it up and whoever wants to speak to it first. What has been the most challenging part of working during the pandemic?
Being behind a computer. Like I said, I thrive with that human connection. I think, you know, maybe you have a flat interview via the computer, but that's not on you. That's just understanding that technology barrier. So for me, the hardest part, not just being away from you guys, but being away from my coworkers. Like I said earlier, we're all friends. And when we do these big work meetings, we don't just go to the meeting and then spend time in our hotel room, go to dinner by ourselves. After the meeting, it's like, you guys, you want to go to dinner? Let's go to dinner. I made a reservation for 12. Let's all go to dinner. So just that connection and that just feeling of, you know, family live. I cannot wait to go back to in person. I'm telling you what.
Bill or Brandon, you want to offer some insight about your experience?
I mean, there was a whole part of it where we were working remote, and I have 5 kids, and I was fighting 5 kids for bandwidth while they were doing school. But, you know, that's nothing that any of you probably have to worry about. I'd say the same thing. I mean, I'm in HR for a reason. I enjoy people. And to miss out on that interaction and that, hey, how's it going? And the, you know, talking to people in the break room and as you walk around the building, I miss that. And I'm very excited for that to come back, as well as some of those activities like what Marnie's describing. So I'm excited to see people again.
Yeah, I mean, I think for us, maybe myself, I would say early on, it was ensuring, you know, my team was motivated. They felt like they were having a connection, trying to meet them where they are. I mean, I manage a relatively, you know, young team, and so it was ensuring like, hey, post-graduation, where they came from a very social environment, now stepping into almost a fully virtual, you just don't have those organic, like side, you know, desk conversations that you would have in person. So what are some ways that we can reinforce that, and not always a Zoom call? Are there other ways that, you know, we can try to spur a bit of collaboration, and which has worked well. I think it helped us prepare for our intern group that was, again, relatively virtual. So, you know, you learn some things that work and you don't, and you just continue to try to, you know, find new ways. And unfortunately, we're already at a year at this, but very, very excited to see how the fall semester looks as well.
Awesome. So this next one is open to all of you. I'll actually start with Bill on this. What were some hardships you experienced while trying to choose your career?
Well, I was getting a general business degree with a minor in HR, and I'd say probably one of the hardest decisions I had to make when I graduated was, was I too focused on getting the degree and not investing enough time to ensure I was passionate about what I was doing, which, some of you may find yourselves in as you're hitting your senior year, or maybe you're a few years in and you're like, well, this is kind of what my parents did. So we'll go down this path. Maybe it's a place that I'd have interest in. And then you start to kind of reframe and say, okay, what are the things that are giving me passion, and what are some of the aspects of what I have done that I've really enjoyed. And then I just kind of started raising my hand at each opportunity I could to get, experience and to start to understand that better. So, when I started out at Micron, I was a intern that then became a post-graduated intern that then became a contractor, and just kind of raised my hand to say, hey, I want to be here. I have a lot of interest in what we're doing. I'll stay on any way I could, and just kind of took sacrifice there to build my career, and then have got to me where I am today, which is good. So I think it's sometimes raising the hand, taking the opportunity that's there, and really making the most of it. But understanding as you maybe exit college, there's going to be paths and doors that open that maybe you didn't foresee, and that's a good thing as well. So
great, Brandon.
I think one of the bigger it's interesting, right? We've talked a little bit about it. I wanted to be a doctor, wanted to be a rock star primate psychologist, got into retail, wanted to be a store manager, came into HR. And it's one of those things where if I had been talking with a career consultant as an undergraduate, perhaps at Boise State, right? They probably would have said, that's a terrible plan. Why on earth do you want to go that way? It doesn't make sense. But looking back, I can't imagine it any other way. And so I think, one of the hardships is just that journey of figuring out what it is that drives you and where it is that you find the joy in the journey, and identifying those moments, because each one of those experiences has given me something that I do on a daily basis in my current role. And so again, the plan looks weird from the onset, but I can't imagine having arrived here any other way.
Awesome. And Marnie?
You guys are going through one of the hardships I went through right now. I don't know kind of what grade you're in, but I was graduating in like 2009 is when I was looking for jobs, and not a lot of people were hiring. So I think you all can feel that on a really real level. That's a hardship. You got to get over that. You got to put yourself out there more than ever you think. So just kind of finding a job was a hardship for me. And then being open to opportunities. I saw sales and I was like, no, I didn't like wine. I didn't know where I wanted to go. I thought I wanted to do med device. And then I interviewed and I got turned down. And that was really hard for me. It was like, but you hired my best friend. We could have lived together in California. Like, it was going to be this amazing opportunity. And then they turned me down. And so taking that, assessing that, learning from that mistake, and learning those interview, cues, don't say this, don't say that, use I statements, use those specifics. That was really hard for me. But then, now I've been at Gallo for 11 years. So thankfully they turned me down. But I think it's just using that why not mentality and being open to new opportunities you might not know that you were interested in, like sales or finance or agriculture.
So we have one last question, and then our panel will come to an end. But the question is, what made you realize the professional area you wanted to pursue? And I'll go ahead and start with Brandon.
The mind is odd in the sense that if you don't actively take control of it, it goes on autopilot. And someone said that, and I don't know who, but I love it. And I think it's important throughout your journey and even at school to make sure you're not on autopilot. And the moments where I realized this is where I want to be and have taken a step closer every career change to get to where I am has been about focusing and a bit of self-reflection of where has my passion been? What have I been most proud of accomplishing? And where have I really just enjoyed the work? And I can talk about that all day long. And for me, as I thought about those stories and those experiences and those projects, it was all around people. It was around teams. It was helping people change their stories. and learn new skills and to grow. And to me, that ended up being within HR and org design.
Awesome. Bill.
Yeah, I think it's really that energy and kind of that passion play. I kind of went on more of a technical recruiting path at Micron, was talking with, folks that are probably 2 or 3 in the world that can do what they do. And those conversations were fine, but found when I had a chance to go out and go on the college recruiting trail or, meet with faculty and student organizations that even though those were, 12-hour long days typically when you're on campus, that, I kind of left that event feeling very, very refreshed and just, had a ton of energy, even when we would have assumed that might have been a bit more taxing. So I think it's kind of leaning in on the areas that are adding to your bucket, not necessarily draining it, was a key for me.
And Marnie.
I think, Bill and Brandon both said it earlier, but finding those values so you can be proud of the company you work for. So finding those values, and that for me was Gallo, and the long-term career and the sustainability and innovation and that family thread, that family first. That's what kind of made me realize not sales, not wine. It was about the company, not the industry. And that's why I opened myself up to sales in the first place. I said it in the last answer. So finding just that, those values that you can connect on. And for me, it was that, not necessarily the professional industry. So use that why not. Find it that it might be Simplot, it might be Gallo, whatever it is. Find the company and then find the passion for the work within that. That worked for me. So I could be unique in that one.
Awesome. Well, that is all of our time and our questions. I want to thank all 3 of you for taking time out of your day. This was very valuable. I learned some new things, and I hope that the students here today found value in it. All 3 of you, if any of the students reach out and would like contact information to reach out to you specifically, are you okay with us providing that?
Absolutely. I'm also going to, into the chat box, drop my LinkedIn. So if you guys want to click on that.
Fabulous.
Internet friends. I love internet friends.
Yes. Awesome. Well, again, thank you so much for taking the time. We really appreciate it. And I hope you all enjoy the rest of your week. And thank you everybody for attending today. And my class, I will see you on Thursday, and have your business case rough draft ready to go.
Thanks, y'all.
Thanks everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.